Giridharadhari. Jaya Gopi Jannavalava Giridharadhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shotara Shatashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacarya Shotara Shatashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giradhara Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavandam Ki Jai. Navadiptam Ki Jai. Maturadham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to the Samo devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 15, text number 51. Ya Shraddhayaitad Bhagavat Priyanam Pando Sutanam Iti Samprayanam Shinoti Alam Swastyayanam Pavitram Labdva Haro Bhaktim Upaite Siddhim Yashraddhayaitad Bhagavat Prayanam Pando Sutanam Iti Samprayanam Srinotyalang Swasthayanam Pavitram Labdva Haro Bhaktim Upaiti Siddhim Yashraddhayaitad Bhagavat Priyanam Pando Sutanam iti samprayanam Srinotyalang svastayanam pravitram Labdhva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam Pando sutanam iti samprayanam Srinotyalang svastatyayanam pavitram Labdhva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yakshadhayaitat Bhagavat Prayanam Pando Sutanam Iti Sampradyanam Srinotyalam Swastyayanam Pavitram Labdva Haro Bhaktim Upaiti Siddhim
Yashadhayaitat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam
Pando Sutanam iti samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam
Srinotyalam swasyayanam pavitam
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yashadhayaitat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat prayanam
Pando Sutanam iti samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yashadhayaitat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam
Pando Sutanam iti samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Labdha haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yashradhayatat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam
Pando Sutanam iti Samprayanam
Pando sudanam iti samprayanam
Srinotyalam Swastyayanam Pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Labdva Haro Bhaktim Upaiti Siddhim
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yashradhayaitat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam
Pando Sutanam iti samprayanam
Pando sudanam iti samprayanam
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitro
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdha haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Yashadhayaitat Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayaitat bhagavat priyanam
Pando Sutanam iti iti samprayanam.
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam.
Shrinoti alam svayasyayanam pavitram.
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram.
Labdva hero bhaktim upatiti siddhyam.
Labdha haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim.
Yashradhaya tad Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayai tad bhagavat priyanam.
Pando Sutanam iti Samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam.
Srinotyalam Swastyayanam Pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram.
Labdhva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim.
Yashradhaya tad Bhagavat Priyanam
Dadhadyai tad bhagavat priyanam.
Pando Sutanam iti Samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam.
Srinotyalam Swastyayanam Pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram.
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim
Labdha haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim.
Yashradhaya tad Bhagavat Priyanam
Yashadhayai tad bhagavat priyanam.
Pando Sutanam iti Samprayanam
Pando sutanam iti samprayanam.
Srinotyalam Swastyayanam Pavitram
Srinotyalam swastyayanam pavitram.
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim.
Labdva haro bhaktim upaiti siddhim. Are there any chanters online? Yaha, anyone who Shraddhaya, with devotion, etat, this, Bhagavat Priyanam, of those who are very dear to the personality of Godhead. Pandoho, of Pandu. Sutanam, of the sons. Iti, thus. Samprayanam, departure for the ultimate goal. Shrinoti, hears. Alam, only. Swastyayanam, good fortune. Pavitram, perfectly pure. Labdha, by obtaining. Haro, unto the Supreme Lord. Bhaktim, devotional service. Upaite, gains. Siddhim, perfection. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life, back to Godhead, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam is a narration about the personality of Godhead and the devotees of the Lord, like the Pandavas. The narration of the personality of Godhead and His devotees is absolute in itself, and thus to hear it with a devotional attitude is to associate with the Lord and constant companions of the Lord. By the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one can attain the highest perfection of life, namely going back home, back to Godhead, without failure. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the first canto, 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam entitled, The Pandavas Retire Timely. So translation again. The subject of the departure of the sons of Pandu for the ultimate goal of life back to Godhead, Hare Krishna, is fully auspicious and is perfectly pure. Therefore, anyone who hears this narration with devotional faith certainly gains the devotional service of the Lord, the highest perfection of life. So, the purport isn't very long, but Prabhupada has been speaking about this and all the devotees have also been mentioning the auspicious nature of hearing Bhagavatam. But I actually kind of made a few notes here. So the points that are stressed here is the hearing. So the word in the Sanskrit is this word Shrinoti. Shrinoti means hears. So anyone who hears this will actually achieve devotional service and achieve the highest perfection of life. So, as far as highest perfection of life, or some people may say, well, why is devotional service to God the highest perfection? So, that's according to one's knowledge, is the goal. Some people are interested in Shreyas, some people are interested in Preyas. That the real ultimate goal is Shreyas, that there is actually an eternal kingdom. That is where we are from. We're meant to be there in our full consciousness. And right now we're suffering due to our loss of this devotional attitude. So if we hear this with some fraction of devotional attitude, which is our real constitutional position, we hear this Bhagavatam, we hear about the Lord, and we hear about His devotees, then we'll receive that devotional service. We'll be given that gift, matchless gift of devotional service. So, on the point of this hearing, the Bhagavatam itself elucidates or elaborates on the value or the benefit of hearing this narration. Now, many of those quotes are in the first canto, second chapter. Of course, there's others that are mentioned elsewhere, but I have a few quotes from this first canto, second chapter. And let me use this book here. This second chapter of the first canto is called Divinity and Divine Service, and we have many wonderful verses here. So I started with 14, so there's a few here. So Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 14. Tasmad ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam vatihi shrotavya kirtayavyascha deya pujaschа nityada. Translation. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So if by hearing these narrations, we can actually attain pure devotional service, then this should be our one-pointed attention. And there's one verse in the Bhagavad-Gita which states that those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. Right? Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. So these persons who are on this path of devotional service, they actually are one-pointed. Ekeha Kurunandana. In this world, their aim is one. What is it? According to Sutta Goswami, or actually, let me see here, who's the speaker of this second? Sutta Goswami. So he's actually saying, one-pointed attention, one should hear, glorify, and remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So then, continuing, this Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, text 17, it starts with the same word here, Shrinoti, about hearing. And it says, Shrinvatam svakata Krishna, punya shravana kirtana, hridyantasto hyabhadrani, vidhunoti suritsatam. Translation. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So in this verse, we also hear about the potency of hearing and how attraction to hearing is called Shrinvatam. So that Shrin, here we have Shrinoti, which means to hear, and here we have Shrinvatam, those persons who have developed the urge to hear this message. And we develop this urge to hear by actually serving the great souls. And that was mentioned in the verse right before, which says, first canto, chapter 2, text 16, Shushrusho Shradadhanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Niveshanat. Translation, O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. Pardon me? By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So this word affinity, Vasudeva Kata Ruchi. So Ruchi, what does it mean? Taste, right? Vasudeva Kata. I want to taste for Krishna Kata, about the Lord. That is actually obtained by serving the great souls. They're completely freed from vice. So this is interesting. In the verse, which was the next verse, which I read out of order, it says here, Shrinvatam, this one, text 17 of the second canto, for second chapter, first canto, says, which are virtuous in them, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So this is interesting because Prabhupada makes sure we understand here, properly heard and chanted. So this is referring to the quality of the activity, quality of the hearing. This is important. This was also mentioned in the Bhagavatam verse that we're looking at today. What was the quality of the hearing which will bestow devotional service? Anybody? From the verse? Yeah, faithfully. He said here, devotional faith. Yes. They hear this devotion with devotional faith. They hear this narration with devotional faith. So this is what it means to properly hear and chant. And then I'm going to make some comments about that. How much time? But here the 18 says, the next verse of this series in the first canto, second chapter, text 18, it says, Nashtaprayeshva bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyutama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. Translation, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So this verse is very similar to the verse in Bhagavatam that we're hearing today. That when we hear this, Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, regularly, Prabhupada puts. Of course, Nitya also is translated many times as eternally, right? Or constantly, right? Or at least daily, regularly, right? Prabhupada gave that mercy, that, okay, at least, assimilate this transcendental message once a day. Then we can be absorbed in the purport of Bhagavatam the whole day long by 24-hour service, right? So then there's many other verses which are in relation to this. But I wanted to go to the next little quote here, which is from 3rd chapter of 1st Canto Bhagavatam. And this one, what do you think? Okay, seems that I missed the note. So I wanted to talk about this, that what was that mood? It was to hear with devotional faith. So to hear with devotional faith. So that was mentioned, I think Mataji was mentioning earlier, that's a submissive hearing. Submissive hearing. So who is a good example of submissive hearing? Anybody have one? Pariksha Maharaj. Who else? Arjuna. Who else? Uddhava. Who else? A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Jai. Right? Actually, Prabhupada said that he was glorified by his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada or A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada wouldn't go away. He wanted to continue hearing. And Prabhupada describes, hardly maybe I even could understand everything. Of course, we know that because of Prabhupada's full surrender, Yasya deve parabhaktir, ita deve tata guru, yasya itet katita karta. Last one. Prakashyante Mahatmanaha, right? That because of Srila Prabhupada's full surrender to Krishna and Guru, all the imports of the Vedas are automatically revealed. So we know Prabhupada understood. But humbly he says, hardly maybe I even understood what my Guru was saying, but still I wanted to stay. Still I wanted to stay and hear. To stay and hear the message is very important. So these are all great examples of people who heard with the right attitude. Now, I wanted to highlight from Bhagavad-Gita. There are many verses which highlight that, and Arjuna is the example. So from Bhagavad-Gita chapter 2, text 7, it gives that surrender. So, right? Karpanya dosho pahata svabhava prechami tvang dharma samudachetaha yachreyachanishtitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapanam. That Krishna says, or Arjuna says, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. Right? So this is the mood. This is the mood. When we hear, we have to be in this mood. I was hearing from a small book that is a compilation of lectures from His Holiness Radhanath Swami. And in that small pamphlet, His Holiness Radhanath Swami was mentioning that the problem is, or one of our problems is, we hear what the devotees say, what the scripture says, what the Guru says, but we are not in that mood. What is the mood? He gives an example. He said, if you are actually suffering and you're actually been shipwrecked, there's no hope for you. You're shipwrecked. You're actually floating there, or you're in a flood, and there's no way to escape this imminent, demise. Somebody comes and throws you a rope. How hard are you going to grab that rope? They have to actually carry you to safety. It's not that you just grab it instantly, you're saved. No, if you let go of the rope, you're done. So what is the mood of somebody who will grab that rope? How tightly will that person be grabbing? It's all his own. He has that ability. Somebody came to save him, and he grabs the rope with all of his strength just to do his part. That's the mood that we have to hear. That's the mood. Hardly we hear like that. I will actually die if I don't hear this Bhagavatam. Right? Hardly. But this is that Shrinvatam. If we serve the great souls, meaning we serve their instructions, we serve their Vani, right? Prabhupada's Vani. We serve Prabhupada's instructions, we'll get that taste for hearing this message. And when we hear in such an attitude, devotional service will be our gift. So, those are some points. From Bhagavad-Gita, in 4.3, Krishna says that, I am telling you this science because you're my devotee and my friend. That's important, mood. We have to become friends with the Lord. We have to become a friend to the Lord's mission. What is it, the Lord's mission? To retrieve all the fallen souls, right? To bring them all back. And at the end of Gita, Arjuna concludes, he says, Karishye vachanam tava. Whatever you have said, I will actually do that. Right? So that's there too. That, it's not that we just hear, but we hear with the attitude that I shall do these activities. I shall execute this. I shall follow this instruction. Or else, what is the meaning of disciple without discipline? Many times Prabhupada would say like that. What is the meaning of disciple without discipline? The first step of discipline is obedience. We can't be disciplined without obedience. We can't, And the thing is, our discipline is completely voluntary. Everybody here is deciding to surrender their life to Krishna and Guru on their own will. Isn't that amazing? That's why devotees are very special. Devotees are very special people because nobody's forcing them. Therefore, we should also be gentle, polite. We can't be harsh with each other. This is not so easy. It's not so easy thing because everybody is doing by. I think Mataji's out there. Everybody is voluntarily rendering services. So we try to encourage, and gradually people will understand and they'll want to serve. So those are some things. This Bhagavatam, it's not written by any mundane person. Munina Kritam. From Bhagavatam it states Munina Kritam, that this was actually written by Mahamuni Vyasadeva. And this person, he's free from the 4 defects. Remember we heard that one class from Prabhupada? He's not an ordinary writer. This message, this is actually, different type of message. And this is relished by the swan-like devotees. So, okay, those are some things. The Vedas in Bhagavatam, you have something, Prabhu? Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, I like what you were saying about this point of having to grab onto the rope, because we hear all the time, but how much are we actually hearing? So I was wondering how we could develop better hearing. You know, I think within myself there's a tendency, or if I sit down and read, you know, I'm hearing from the Shastra, I'm hearing from Srila Prabhupada, but then some other devotee gets up and sits in front of me, and, you know, they're speaking from their realizations of everything that they heard and read from Prabhupada. But for some reason I think, oh, he's not so advanced. I see his flaws, his faults, and that prevents me from hearing more deeper, or allowing it to enter my heart deeper. How can we, you know, relish that message of Vasudeva that's coming through, that everybody's speaking, when it's properly chanted, you know, in that context?
Yeah. Well, it's not that we want to hear the message of Vasudeva from just anybody. This is true. And purity is the force. If we don't follow properly what Prabhupada has given, our vibration will be lacking in purity, and it will not inspire a change of heart. And it's important for us not to hear from people who are not following properly. When it comes to associating with them, we can always be respectful. But when it comes to submissively hearing the message of Vasudeva, this is a privilege to be able to be speaking this message. As far as the temple is concerned, the temple is a manifestation of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And the temple is working under the guidance of GBC, which is a direct order for this whole society to follow the GBC. The GBC has elected representatives to organize in the temples, such as temple president, and they are also directing the activities of the sannyasis and gurus. The temple is running under those persons' direction. And in this way, those persons are deciding who is qualified to speak the message of Bhagavatam, in one sense. Of course, there's only so many days in a week, but more or less, the persons who are being asked to give class in the temple, they're authorized in that sense. And so it's always a safe bet. Let me hear submissively the philosophy of Krishna consciousness from persons who are regularly being asked to give classes. Because then we can be sure the temple has given authority, which means Prabhupada has given authority. Now, we have to always use our intelligence to make sure that the whole system is working properly. And if we have any doubts, we go to those authorities, seniors, and we express, I have a doubt, this person is actually authorized and following properly. Therefore, we can actually have good faith and clear all our doubts and know for sure, these people, I want to hear the message of Krishna from them at least. And we always can hear from Srila Prabhupada directly. And actually, that's the instruction of everyone who's authorized to speak the Bhagavatam. They should actually tell you, best is you actually hear from Srila Prabhupada. So that's a good sign if somebody tells you that. Oh, maybe that person is an authority. Of course, it's not just like that, but those are some answers. As far as why to hold on more tightly to the rope, because this is a razor's edge. And every second that I'm not engaged in the service that Krishna is asking me to engage in, then I'm engaged in service to Maya. And it's very subtle. If I'm finding faults, then I can't be hearing submissively. They can't happen simultaneously in your brain. You just watch it. You can't stack them. It's one, then the next. And we may say, oh, he's this. We say, no, this is actually the message. He's reading the purport. What's the problem? You know, like that. He's speaking the purport. Okay, what's the problem? You know, overlook those faults. A spot on the moon is hardly a flaw at all. So we should actually take it like that. But we should also understand that that verse which speaks about, you know, considering the devotees saintly, sadhu, can you give us some parable? Yes. That, you know, in this purport, Prabhupada states, those who don't give up their services. And that's why again and again, what is actually being asked? We don't give up these principles. If we give up these principles, we break these principles, where is our purity? Where is our link? Where's our connection? Prabhupada is our link to the Parampara. We don't have a connection with Krishna without Srila Prabhupada. Eternally, everyone has a connection with Krishna, but you make that connection with the Guru. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bija. Guru Krishna, both. So these are some comments. Sorry to take so long. Okay. What's yours, Prabhu? A question? Oh. Maybe you can ask it because that's valuable, then we'll just end it.
Sorry. So my question is like, it's just a simple yes or no, and like, it's so if we break these principles, then, so if we follow these principles, then we can automatically advance. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Jai.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.